You're listening to Once Upon a Time at the Movies, a retrospective podcast where we look back at a classic film and take a deep dive into its history, discuss how it put its stamp on Hollywood, share our own thoughts with a superfan special guest, and ask the question, how does this classic still hold up today? Let's dive in. Once upon a time in 1990, audiences were enthralled and sometimes terrified by the brooding performances of Ray Liotta, Joe Pesci, and Robert De Niro as we see the rise and fall of their lives in the mob. I am your host, Juan Ayala, editor-in-chief at ActorsWithIssues.com, here to talk all about Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. And joining us for this trip to the movies is the founder of Swift Peak Productions and the co-host of the Reel Chums podcast, Danny Rubio. Danny, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Juan, for having me. I'm so happy to be here and to talk some great mob stories.
So tell us a bit about yourself and why you love movies and why Goodfellas, sort of in a nutshell, why Goodfellas was your pick from the list that I sent over to you while the movies we're chatting about this year.
For sure. I'm Danny Rubio. I run, like you said, Swift Peak Productions. I help businesses jumpstart their marketing. A lot of businesses they get up and running and they just are always in the weeds, and they get to that point where they need that balance. And so what I do is help execute on a plan that they're looking forward to. This is one of the best times to do it. In the last part of the year, big wins with it's easy to create and execute on a campaign, but a lot of times they just don't have the resources or understanding what to bring together, and that's where I come in. But on the side, I co-host the Reel Chums podcast, a movie where we talk about movies, and it just feels like you're hanging out with some friends. I co-host it with Marcel. I believe he's been on your pod in a different moment. Is that right? If I remember correctly?
He has not yet. No, but I came on your guys' show to chat
Yes, right.
about
You have been on our
this
podcast.
year.
And we were talking about Clue, and we loved having you on there. It was a great time. And the reason why we picked Untouchables, it's because it's one that I have only watched like the one time with a half of another showing on a flight. But I've always loved since I watched it. And more importantly, I just really love mob stories. I love, Peaky Blinders is one of my favorite shows of all time. Yeah. And so anytime I get a chance to watch something that has to do with this era, just is great. So I'm excited to talk about it.
And before we dive into our first impressions, which is our first segment on the show, we're going to share some thoughts, some of the thoughts and comments of some folks on Reddit who I posted on the r/movies subreddit, and there's 100,000 people in there, if not way more. And lots of people shared their thoughts, and we have some that we want to highlight here. But BrickRed33 says, the pacing and writing of the film is brilliant. When I watch it, I feel like I'm rereading a really good book, and that plays a huge part in the rewatch value for me. Otherwise, Search329 says, Scorsese's direction, the pacing, and that iconic use of music makes it endlessly rewatchable. Pesci's performance is unforgettable, especially the funny how scene. Dream Bloomville says De Niro was brilliant, Pesci was terrifying, but honestly, Lorraine Bracco gave the film its emotional core. And we'll get into her performance later as well. But Danny, when did you first see the film? And how did you feel about it back then? And what are your feelings sort of rewatching it for the first time?
For me, I watched this film when I was 25. I had gotten back from a mission for my church, and I was deciding. I was looking at some films that I had not dove into, partially because of their R rating. When I was a kid, my mom was pretty adamant about their very specific films that she was like, oh, this one's okay, but this one's not. And so I was trying to catch up on some of the classics, the ones that like individuals are saying these are the ones you should have. And so watched it. I think I watched it with as a movie night with some friends, and you fall in love with these characters. The performances. Martin Scorsese does a fantastic job with this film, and you just get such iconic moments of drama, of feeling this bond of and just I don't know, the tension, and for me I love it.
And do you feel that it still holds up? And like, how do you feel that it's aged over the years? Is it one of those films that like there's moments in it that you're like, ooh, you couldn't do that today, or is it really like just sort of timeless, or rather stands the test of time?
So this is one of those things where when you think about films and you think about shooting on film, there's a characteristic that never gets old. And I think this is why when you look at the digital aspect of what we have today in digital filmmaking, there's this level of like, oh, I only want to shoot on film. I still think you can get that with digital film, but this is a testament of why people have that discussion, especially in the camera realm and the production realm, is because you watch this film and it holds up. Now, I have to argue that I think it has to come down to the stylistic choices of lighting, right? I think it's just you have darks, but when you see people's faces, you can see them. You see their emotions and their performances that I think sometimes gets lost with more modern cameras and getting better low light. And so they don't light things or bring up some of the highlights as much. Um, uh, and the contrast, I think, of the light and the dark overall is where I think is why it makes it a portion of it rewatchable. I also think I mean, the performances here. Um, you get w with everybody here, Joe Pesci, um, and Robert De Niro. You just feel them. You get I think the nostalgia of like these people, the honestly, I think the other portion of this is like just the attire. You are looking at some really great men. Sometimes I wonder like where has fashion come? Why are we like there's this weird revival of like I feel like only select men are trying to they've adopted fashion as some sort of thing that you have to make a choice on and become an influencer. But really, man, fashion adding a bracelet, adding a little bit of layer, it just, I don't
Yeah.
know, inspires me to want to like, hey, can I do a little bit more and do wardrobe when it comes to that? Um, the last thing is honestly just the filmmaking. The Martin Scorsese, I really do think he's locked in on this story, and he wanted to tell the story, and it brings so much on screen.
Yeah, I agree with so much of what you said, especially with lighting. It's funny because so this month in September at Regal, the Regal theaters, they've had this great series called Month of Masterpieces. So every day they're re-releasing a classic in theaters. And next month they already have set up like every day will be a different classic horror movie. But two films that I felt really highlighted what you said about lighting and what is now lost today. And these are like older films, Psycho, which came out in 1960, and
Yes.
then I just saw yesterday, I saw Casablanca for the first time, and 1942, so even older than that. And just seeing how intentional lighting is, and that light was used to fill space and add depth and all of that. And I feel like even nighttime scenes, it's like, where's that light coming from? Doesn't matter. Don't question it. It's a moonlight. It's a street lamp we can't see. It's whatever. Just don't overthink it. And then now you do see these movies that the dark scenes are so dark. If you're watching at home during the daytime, you can't see at all what's going on. And
Exactly.
people complain so much about like TV and film, especially like Game of Thrones. People are like that last season, you could barely see the what the hell's going on when it's like a night battle or whatever. But it's like so frustrating. I'm like, where's the lighting? Where's the creativity? It's like, ugh, so frustrating.
No, it is. I think this is something that, look, don't get me wrong. Do I love, I have a camera that I use for my productions. Do I love that I have dynamic range that I never could have had earlier? Yeah, as a independent video producer who helps businesses, this is fantastic. But when you're trying to make a movie, um, like I think that people get caught up in trying to make it feel so like natural
Mhm.
that they forget that like it sometimes it just doesn't matter. Like who cares where that light's coming from? I am getting the lighting of this individual's reaction for this moment, and that's what I care about. I want the performances, and I want to stylize that, with in this moment. I want to be people to feel the tension, with a red light or with if it is a dim room, where do we want to be able to draw? And if it's random I love that we have so many wonderful set pieces. I also think that like there's the level of uh, this is something I've been thinking a little bit more about as I've been watching some older films too, especially with my kids and their. Yeah, I think about Parent Trap as well. Parent Trap also is a beautifully shot film because of the contrast and the lighting and what they bring here. Now, Scorsese, his I think the fact that he brings all of this in this type of film, we see a lot of these elements in this film in modern films now that we're like we want more of
Yeah.
one takes and the sequel, just the emotional beats of cutting back and forth and getting the angles, the camera shots for throughout different moments of this film that you just are pulled in every single time.
I'm not sure if you've seen the show on Apple TV Plus. It just won a ton of Emmys for best comedy, but the studio.
The studio.
It feels like, mind you, Martin Scorsese was in it for a bit, which is a great moment he had with Seth Rogen and Ike Barinholtz. But pretty much every episode is a oneer. So
Yes.
almost the whole episode. Some of them are fully the whole episode. Others is like there's like two cuts, but it's still like a half hour. These are 12-minute oneers, 10-minute oneers, whatever. But so wonderfully done, and it adds so much to the storytelling. It feels like you're a spectator, not just as an audience member, but also like you're seeing this like it's through your POV. It's
Yes.
different than just like I'm an audience member and I'm watching the movie. Because it's like, some movies are shot so wide and so broadly, it feels like theater, where you're sitting and you're watching one angle for
Yeah.
2 hours. And then this movie and so many other incredible ones, even if it's just for specific scenes, like it's intentional. No, I don't think any movie is like kind of a one take. Maybe there's like one or two out there that is like a 90-minute oneer. But
Yeah.
this
Birdman.
does such a great job during certain ones, like when Henry takes Karen to the club for the first time.
Yes.
It's they take the back entrance and you go through the kitchen, you go through the whole club, and all of that's all oneer, and it's like she's seeing this for the first time, and it's like you're seeing it through her eyes. It's just so
Yeah.
brilliantly done.
What I like about, not only, that he's taking her, you're exploring this space, and it's like you said, it's introducing not only her, but we get to do this. We're there, and it's seductive, right? We're enthralled with this environment. I think it helps just as one introduction for this club.
And as I said before we started recording, I admit it to you, and I have to say it to our audience. I had not seen Goodfellas before a couple weeks ago. Goodfellas was one of the movies that I saw in theaters during the month of masterpieces, along with Taxi Driver. I'd never seen that at all either, and it was my first time seeing it because another incredible De Niro-led movie by Martin Scorsese. And I attribute my lack of seeing masterpieces to just my upbringing. Like you, I was raised pretty religious and strict, and my parents did not want to show us violent movies. What parent
Yeah.
does? But growing up, they just didn't sort of expose me to the movies of their time. And mind you, again, as we said, this came out in 1990, so this was like a couple years
Yes.
before either of us were born. It wasn't on TV probably for years. As I said before, the first like VHS release was in '97. I was four, so I was not going to see it back then either. So, it takes a long time, especially back in the 90s before there was home video where you could get things very quickly. Now you get, movies are on streaming in less than 3 months and on DVD 6 months. So it's like,
Right.
I mean, just, it's obvious just as a first time viewer why it is as revered as it is, why it's considered one of, if not the best Scorsese film,
Yes.
and some of the best performances from these actors. And just as we talked about sort of artistically, it's just as someone who is an actor and wants to be a filmmaker one day, I'm just like taking notes. I'm writing all this shit down, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna. It's just the storytelling, the pacing, the editing, everything is just like, it got 6 Oscar nominations for a reason.
Yeah.
Just fantastic. But
He,
yeah.
I, what's something that I really appreciate, Juan, is that like I I also, so I have a couple, so I didn't, a lot of the like classic films that some of, like this one, and I'm thinking of like some of the even Steven Spielberg films.
Mhm.
Uh, I didn't watch them because my mom was from Mexico, and so she came into States later in her life, and then ended up having me, and then wanting to like as a kid didn't want to push me. She wasn't watching rated R movies. As I got older, there was like if it was an Oscar winner, it didn't matter if it was rated R. She's like, oh, they said that this one was the best film or whatever.
Yeah.
But a lot of the films that we think of are iconic already had gone through. It would, this is the late 90s, early 2000s when I'm starting to get into understanding, cinema. And one of the things that I think that this film has always done so well is, you know, they layer the best of the best when we think about filmmaking, right? That we, even though we get to come back and we revisit this film as a first time in the year of 2025, and we get to experience it. I love that your Regal Cinema was doing that, doing these like replays, because there are times when I wish I could go back and rewatch. Like I love when they're doing these like revisits, right? The Back to the Future, and
Mhm.
it's like, because there's something very different about watching some of the classics, some of these, even some films again in theater, because we can watch on our phones because we're trying to get the movie in, and that's the only time we have. It's a dinner table in between running to several errands, or maybe on the TV, but maybe our TV is smaller, or depending on where you're living or whatever. But being able to see it in a theater and have a shared experience on a film like this one, right? We have Karen and Henry walking with this lavish house and the cinematography, and seeing they've got all the cash, and you're just looking at their lives, and you're just in you're just so captivated.
Mhm.
I think, and it's you you just have to sit back and just enjoy. I think I don't. I often I struggle with this film because I think I always just enjoy it
Yeah.
when I'm watching it. I have a hard time trying to want to get into the nitty gritty of,
And like dissect it.
okay, let's,
Yeah.
yeah, like, okay, I mean, obviously we have the wonderful, your the zooming, or you've got the crane shots, and the elaborateness of understanding, okay, how can we craft the stories and get the camera where we want it. But I just, I always want to just enjoy the experience and the rise and fall
Yeah.
of these characters.
Yeah, I agree. Again, it was my first time seeing it, so I was just taking it all in, but also trying to like be like, okay, we're gonna talk about this movie in a couple weeks though, so let me try and take notes and remember my favorite moments and all of that. And it is hard. I wish I'd watched it a second time before, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's cool to know that I'll be going in. Like my partner hasn't seen this movie, so I'm excited to watch it with him for the
Oh,
first time. And and mind you, most of the classics that I've been seeing, he's very similar. He grew up in a Cambodian household, immigrant family, same thing. Just sort of like didn't really watch the classics like that. So it'll be cool to sort of revisit and watch those. Um, it'll be a rewatch for me, first time for him. That'll be really cool.
I
But
wonder.
we're gonna go into our deep dive now with some fun facts about sort of the behind the scenes, the development of the movie. As folks know, the movie is based on the nonfiction book Wise Guy by New York City crime reporter Nicholas Pileggi, who was brought on to co-write the screenplay with Scorsese. And development began as early as 1986 when Scorsese had received a sort of an early copy of the book, I believe. To sort of mix things, I also read somewhere that he read a review of the book, and that's what interested him. But he called Pileggi, and to talk about making it into a movie. And there's a lot of reports of Scorsese when he called him. He said, "I've been waiting to make this movie for my entire life." And Pileggi said, "Well, I've been waiting for this phone call my entire life." It was just sort of kismet that they just matched up like that. Um,
Yes.
and at that point, Scorsese had basically sworn off making another mobster movie. He had done
Mm,
several at that point, and in the
right.
80s, he did. He had unfortunately like a string of flops at the time,
Right.
and he was sort of trying to just continue doing other things. Didn't want to fall into being like the mobster movie guy, even though we think of him as that now. But Taxi Driver is not really a mob movie, but that's one of his another incredible film. There's Mean Streets. There's Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
There's just so many incredible movies. The Irishman, definitely a mom movie. But again, there's a string of movies in between that were really cool. And also, once production began, there were many actors who were considered for the main trio of
Right.
mobsters and for the role of Henry's girlfriend and then wife Karen. De Niro had signed on fairly early to play Jimmy, and he was kind of the I guess the talking point for investors and financiers. They're like, "Oh, De Niro's attached. Okay, we'll do it." Um, and But they also considered Al Pacino for the role, which is funny that he
Right.
didn't end up doing it. Um, and John Malkovich was apparently also approached, and then Pacino had said he reportedly turned it down out of fear of typecasting. But it's funny, someone made a note of this online that he says that, but then he played like a true caricature of a mobster in the same year in Dick Tracy, um, which is like, he's like, oh, I don't want to play that kind of mobster. Now he's playing this mobster sort of like on steroids. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and for the central role of Henry Hill, actors like Sean Penn, Alec Baldwin, Val Kilmer, and even Tom Cruise were considered. And Cruise was apparently Warner Brothers' top choice. And they also wanted Madonna to play Karen. So we can
Oh,
imagine how different a movie this would have been
yes.
if it was the two of them. Um, I think Cruise would have been pretty cool, especially remembering Cruise's younger movies. He's,
Yeah.
solid and but also just very different. It would have been. I feel like Cruise doesn't get into the grittiness, but it just would have been
Until
different.
later
It
on.
would have been
Yeah,
interesting.
I actually, it would be interesting because I think that um, Cruz he maybe would have brought a little bit more. Would have brought a bit more suave, but I mean, Ray Liotta does great.
Yeah.
Um, I but uh, wow, that's I don't think I didn't realize that. I can see why Warner Bros. Maybe wanted that, but it could be that Tom just didn't want to play in a mob movie. I don't know. I do think Madonna would fundamentally shift. I don't think I really do think that would have not necessarily it wouldn't have ruined the no like I can't say that because in a different time period. You said Madonna, right? Did I
Yes.
hear that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it just I this role by Lorraine Baracco for Karen, she just does a phenomenal job with falling in love, being committing.
Hmm.
Um, that I just I think I'm like I think Madonna might have brought a whole different flair that wouldn't have necessarily meshed, but I don't know. Again, it's the what ifs of the world.
Yeah, I'm sure there's an alternate universe out there where that is the movie that got made, and we'll never know.
No,
And as you mentioned, Ray Liotta eventually went on to play the role. He had to really fight for the role because the studio wanted someone who higher
right.
profile. And Liotta said in an interview while he was promoting the film, he said, "I think they would have rather had Eddie Murphy than me."
Ooh,
But Scorsese really wanted him, and he also fought for him and said he was very impressed with his performance in Something Wild, which is a Jonathan Demme film. And yeah, I think that Leota was incredible, and that opening line is the line that really starts the movie because there's the opening scene where they're driving, but he says,
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster.
and just that voiceover, he's such a terrific narrator and
yes.
really leads the story so well. His voice is just it's very narratory. It's very sort of calm and cool and pleasant to listen to. It's not like a gritty voice that's like you would get tired of or anything. It's just he does such a great job. And to get into some of the numbers, Goodfellas made 47.1 million at the box office, which in 1990 is very impressive,
Very
against a
impressive.
$25 million budget. And it went on to get 6 Oscar nominations, with Joe Pesci being the winner of supporting actor for his role, and the other nominations included Best Picture. It's crazy to think this movie did not win Best Picture.
No,
It also won.
crazy.
It also was nominated for Best Director for Martin Scorsese, Best Supporting Actress for Lorraine, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Film Editing, which is also crazy to think that it did not win Best Editing because I think Editing. The editing's what makes the movie. It's what, sort of
Which film
cuts.
did win?
Dances with Wolves won that year.
Or again, this is one of those moments where you look at this film and you like, because Dancing with Wolves has so many long takes. There's so it's just, and you don't like this film is pieced together. I don't think it's like jarring. I think of this, I would put this akin to like the same level of like that you would do with like Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer literally has so many cuts in it, but you don't ever feel
Hmm.
like there's a like that you're being jarred or taken out of the
Right.
story. And I feel the same way here. So I think it's kind of crazy.
Looking at some of the winners of other categories here, Best Supporting Actress went to Whoopi Goldberg for Ghost, which is an
Yeah.
iconic performance. So it's
Yes.
tough, you know. Kevin Costner won Best Director for Dances with Wolves. It also won Best Picture. Um, it also won Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Score, and it just Dances with Wolves pretty almost did like a full sweep, except for some of the acting categories. Kathy Bates won the Oscar that year for Misery, which
Yeah.
another incredible movie.
Yes.
Um, and yeah, it was a tough year. It was a pretty stacked if you think about it.
Yes.
But yeah, and then going to a sort of a brief overview of the plot of the movie. The story begins in the 1950s when a young Henry Hill, played by Christopher Serrone, who looks incredible. He looks like a young crazy.
Yes.
I don't know
It's
how they
crazy.
managed to do that. I don't know how they found him, but he looks like a young. It looks like a de-aged Ray Liotta. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but he grows up in this neighborhood. He idolizes gangsters and dreams of being part of their world. He becomes involved with the local mob boss, Paulie Cicero, and earns his keep running errands. He quits school. I love the scene where they're like beating up the mailman. They're like, "If you ever deliver a letter from that kid's school again, we're," because his dad got mad that he like the school
Got that.
reported him and all that. It was too funny.
Yeah.
And then I think Henry says something like, "My mom got suspicious when we stopped receiving mail altogether." It wasn't just from the school. It's the guy just
I
skipped
know.
their house. But
I mean,
Henry
I would
learns,
too.
right? Oh, of course. Henry learns the codes of loyalty, silence, and respect while befriending fellow gangsters like Jimmy Conway, played by Robert De Niro, and a savvy and ruthless thief, Tommy DeVito, played by Joe Pesci. And the young actor who they cast to play young Tommy looked pretty much like him too. And it's funny, I'm a big fan of 30 Rock, and he plays like one of the recurring crew members on 30
Yeah.
Rock. All grown up, he looks exactly the same. He's just a little taller. But but he is a hot-tempered enforcer, known for his volatility, which does get him into a lot of trouble as the movie goes on. Henry grows older. He gets deeply entrenched in the mob lifestyle, lavish parties, easy money, and violent retribution. He marries a young girl named Karen, who is both seduced and disturbed by the criminal world, but altogether is in love with Henry and decides to marry him and sort of participate in all of the chaos that's going on. And the crew participates in major heists, including the infamous Lufthansa robbery, which gets $1 million in stolen cash. But that amount of wealth creates a hefty amount of paranoia and betrayal among the group. Jimmy grows increasingly suspicious of loose ends and has several members of their group killed and disposed of to avoid any links back to him. And Tommy's violent impulses make him a liability as he kills a member of a crime family, which costs him dearly by the film's end. I want to touch on that scene really quick where Tommy walks in to this empty room, and just before a trigger is pulled, he realizes what happened. He was thinking he was about to get like baptized into the family, um,
Right.
and it's not at all that. It was a trap, and just that commentary by Henry where he says, they shot him in the head so that his mother couldn't give him an open casket funeral.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, that's dark. How do you think of
Dark.
that?
No.
It's horrible.
Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing is like it's that I like the juxtaposition that you get with, like you look at the family dinner scene, but then you also then look at the scene that with, going, we shot him and shooting in the head so that they wouldn't have an open casket, right? This juxtaposition of family and your job, this enticing passion for greed and power,
Yeah.
and how you want one, but you you're really married to the crime.
Mhm.
And it's the, this idea of, this mob idea of family. I think this is why I love mob films, is that like you're gonna do anything for this family,
Mm.
and that level of pressure, or even of like, and is, uh, could be, I can imagine, could be intoxicating, right? Like you're seeing success, you look up to this individual, you don't have any insights. As Henry like starts to do these small things and starts to take more note, right? It unravels into something that by the time you look back, you don't maybe fully recognize yourself, but you also know that there's no way you could ever go back, right? And I think I just, there's something about this theme, right, of overall of crime of this era, and or even just this style of, in real life, of mobbing. And there's a great podcast called Crime Town,
Mm.
and it focuses around Buddy Cianci in Providence. And because Buddy Cianci lived in Providence and became a mob boss, ended up becoming the mayor of Providence. And him and his cronies and individuals interacted with Al Capone and all these other mob bosses in the Boston and Chicago area timeframe. And it is just fascinating, these individuals, because they're psychologically, they're so split. It's the switch in moments that, um, that I always love on camera, right? Um, and it's great. I don't know. Do you have a favorite? What is that? Um, do you have a favorite moment of those two, of like the like the family individual versus the mob portion for you?
For me, the mob moment is different. I agree the juxtaposition of like him joking around with his mom, and his mom's like, "Why don't you, settle down with a nice girl?"
I
Get
get a
your-
nice one almost every night, ma.
Yeah, but get yourself a girl so you could settle down. That's what
I
I mean.
settle down almost every night, but then in the morning I'm free. I love you. I want to be with you. I want to be with you.
And it's like he's joking with his mom. They're eating food. They're laughing. It's really sweet. And it's like, oh wow, he's kind of a soft guy. And then I don't remember if it was a few scenes before or a few scenes after, but he guns down the bartender kid,
Yeah.
who's Michael Imperioli, who's had like this incredible career
Well,
since then. I didn't even know that was him
I've
until I saw the credits. I was like, wait, that was Michael Imperioli?
yeah.
The Sopranos, The White Lotus, and all these incredible projects he's done since then. It's crazy seeing again like some of these younger actors. It's like whoa, like what on just. But yeah, the contrast of those two moments, and when he gunned down the kid is when I really was like, as you said, it's like the excuse is like we're doing it for the money and whatever, but he was obsessed with power.
Yes.
Is he had to reestablish his power because this young kid was like busting his balls, and his friends were teasing him. They weren't being for real, but they're like, oh, you let this kid talk to you like that? That's crazy.
Yeah,
Kid,
yeah.
good for you. Whatever. But it made him snap, and it's like just one of the many moments that he snaps throughout the movie, and it truly makes him a terrifying character. But yeah.
Hey, I think that's that level of like, because of, you never know when it's going to happen. I think helps to build the tension throughout the film, right? You never, at what moment, you know, is what's going to be said that's going to cause him to snap.
Yeah, that's one of those moments in the movie that I wasn't really like spoiled for me at all. You see memes and moments from movies and
Yes.
stuff over the years,
Yes.
especially online. I've seen the GIF of Ray Liotta laughing 1,000 times.
I thought he was gonna shit. Pow, ping, pow.
But that moment truly shocked me, and I had no idea that. And then again, with Ray Liotta's narration being like, "This is what happened. This is the consequences of whatever," and they shot him in the head because of this, to send a message, and it's like, oh God, this is cold. Mind you, the mob world is cold. There's no feelings attached to anybody. You betray, you snitch on them, you're done. Like
You're done.
you're not gonna see Friday. Like you're you're not gonna make it to the weekend. Like it's and even if you manage to escape, like Ray Liotta's character does by the end, you're under witness protection and you're in the middle of nowhere and you're terrified for
Right.
the rest of your life and just yeah, it's really crazy.
It's wild because in the mob, what I you get this level, like you said. I like that you bring up the fact that in the mob world there is no feelings. Like
Mm.
the moment someone crosses, they're dead to you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you have other individuals who do care, right? And it's just that constant tension of the the conscious of who's in the circle and who's not in the circle.
Yeah.
And can you come back into the circle or you're not going to come back to the circle? Because you know what? You cross that line one too many times, or you cross the unforgivable line and whatever, and that's it. And then they have to then continue to ask themselves, am I going to continue doing what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
And I think again why I always really appreciate the performance, because you're like, why continue, why? But it's the greed,
Yeah.
the desire, or maybe not even the greed, maybe it's just the control
Thrill.
that, yes.
Because they haven't reported this money to the government, so they have no past employment history, they have no education. So it's like, what are you gonna do if you leave the mob? You decide to leave this life, and mind you, assuming they let you leave, what are you gonna go do now?
Yeah.
Like a, a
What
s-
do you
a minimum wage skill job because you have no other, you know how to hold a gun, you know how to hide a body, and you're like, well, how's that useful to you in the in the future? Um, I do want to touch on a scene you mentioned before, right after Tommy gets whacked, um, the phone booth scene with De Niro. He gets the call and he checks in, and they explain to him. They say,
Johnny, what happened?
Well,
Everything got straightened out?
no, we had a problem. I mean, we tried to do everything we could.
What do you mean?
Well, you know what I mean. He's gone, and we couldn't do nothing about it. That's it.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
He's gone. He's gone.
in that moment, De Niro's character is the one that's really torn up and emotional. Like, oh, they got rid of, because he was maybe a decade older than the rest of them. The characters in reality, Joe Pesci was older than all of them.
Yes.
But he's really torn up about it, and he's crying and just sort of doesn't know what to do. And Ray Liotta's kind of standing there cold and doesn't know how to. They don't talk about this kind of stuff. They've never had to be emotional before. They've never lost a member of their group that they didn't kill themselves.
Right. That's I think this it's interesting because Liotta's character, De Niro's like he's fraught, he's like kicking things over, right? He's sad. He's feeling this the loss.
Yeah, anguish.
But what I really appreciate is that there's a moment after they're along a wide, and then it cuts to a medium close shot, and he's like looking down, and he's not like looking up at towards De Niro in any way. He's I think in the way I like always kind of find is that he's trying to process, like, does this actually matter? Like, do I feel the same way?
Yeah, no, I think that he was relieved, if
Yeah.
anything, because Tommy was an accident waiting to happen. Like,
Yes.
you're waiting for when he like shoots a cop, when he finally does cross the line with them. I think he was not very far away from crossing the line with his own people.
Right.
And they have to take him out. They have to say, oh, it is what it is. But yeah, I think that Henry, in a way, was kind of relieved he was gone. He's like, okay, well, at least I didn't have to pull the trigger,
Yeah.
in a year when he really does snap and loses his shit or whatever. But yeah, it's crazy. And then, and mind you, this is the point in the movie shortly after this that Henry's life takes a turn because he starts to get involved with drug trafficking, which what is the name of the boss? Polly tells
Polly.
them, like, don't get involved with that stuff. Like, we're doing
Yeah.
good. He's like, we take cash, we deal with the fur coats and the cigarettes and all of that stuff, the booze, don't get into that other stuff. But by that point, Henry is like just sort of in over his head. He's addicted to drugs, as is his wife, and he's paranoid. And like that whole last act where he's like paranoid about the helicopter. I love reading people's observations about the movie because it's like, okay, good. I was not the only one who thought that. You really are made to feel like you're paranoid. Because again, so much of it is from, it's like there's the shots of him looking up and then the shot of the helicopter. So like you're seeing his POV and you're like, this is weird. Why is the helicopter following him? Is it really the cops? Is he losing his shit? Like what's going on? Like you truly feel like, am I coked out right now? Like what, why am I so paranoid? You really feel like you're in his shoes. And that whole last act is so great. I mean, the whole movie is incredible, but they really managed to capture that panic that he has of why is this helicopter flying overhead again? You know, is it the same one? Is it the weather? Is it the news reports? Like, you never know.
Yeah.
It's just he sees blades and he's like freaking out.
I really appreciate that they really bring down on the paranoia aspect in this third act. In a lot of other ones, you get you know you think of some other mob movies or scenarios. You get to that sense of power and it becomes just about keeping it or taking them down. And so what I really appreciate is that it's the level of like this character who realizes that he is in over his head, right? And that wondering the thing that he asking, he's in the paranoia and the drugs and everything else that what Scorsese does throughout this last part of the film is really drive home that tension that is internal for maybe more mob bosses, but we get it in this film, and that this rising cause of seeing not only him but the people around him asking maybe it's now it's time, right? Trying to get a sense.
Yeah, and it's funny because the movie is about the rise and fall of this group of people, and it's not like the feds are onto them or they have a mole or anything like that. It's their own downfall. It happened because so on Reddit, when we posted like what is everyone's thoughts on the movie, share your opinions, whatever, someone wrote just one sentence. They wrote, what is the message of this movie? And we think about it and it's like, is there a message to this movie? And in my opinion, I think the message is don't get too big for your britches. Quit while you're ahead. Like, because again, everyone crossed the line and they did themselves in. Like that's really what happened. It's not, eventually Henry becomes an informant. That's how you know I'm in New York. But Henry eventually becomes an informant because he becomes paranoid. He wants to cooperate with the FBI to help his family and all of that. And he just is it at that point. He's in his best interest because he's like, look, another of our guys is out, and Jimmy is kind of like slowly retiring and pulling back. And he's like, well, I'm young. I don't know what's left for me to do. So let me do what's best for my family because they already suffered enough when he was in prison and all of that.
And there's something about being able to like taking a jury for an individual's life, and like you said, Henry has to make choices because of what he's done, but we know that like it was them. They were their own problem. If they'd done things differently, maybe they'd still be running and it'd be a different role, a different game. It's about staying on top against some new mob, but it's not. It's just about, no, this is someone else wanted the power now. I recently heard a quote a hot take of that recliners have ruined the filmmaking experience because you're not like closer together, and like the idea if you take a girl on a date or a partner, someone you're trying to date to the movies, the slight hand thing, or even like
it's like COVID. You're like 6 feet apart.
So like this idea of like the intimacy of being able to have someone who's next to you and have not only like someone who's like chomping on popcorn the whole time, but also trying to experience the moment of the final the vertigo zoom out in
Yeah.
the diner scene, and you're
Oh,
also having
such a cool
somebody pop.
shot.
Dude, this shot's
I'm mad I didn't
so
bring it
good.
up. Such a good that the whole effect. I think it's in a bit of my likes, like my but we'll get into that in a bit. But yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah. So for me, uh, and but this is one of those films that like that is you bring you because of what he dresses at the end. It is a wonderful example of how personal how you can interpret a film differently because of the final performance or the moments of those and why when if you're gonna break the fourth wall, like, do it well. And I think this is a fantastic
So
example of
so
that.
well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it feels like he's like it's a courtroom drama, like you're watching a play, like it's like you're watching To Kill a Mockingbird on stage. It's
Yes.
like the courtroom. He's addressing the courtroom, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You're on,
Yes.
like every. It very much felt like that, even though everyone's frozen. But I love one of his closing lines, and it's such a funny moment to me because it's very much like people who live in New York or New Jersey or within their Italian community, and then they move out to a sort of obscure place. Like I think he ends up relocating to the middle of Florida somewhere. He says, "I ordered pasta and marinara sauce, and what I got was egg noodles and ketchup." I'm like, what a funny like sort of like flip on this the lifestyle he once had, and he's always looking over his shoulder because he really never knows. Did someone follow me down here? Did someone track me? Did
Yeah.
just living the rest of his life in paranoia. And mind you, he ended up being like a consultant on the movie, and they said that De Niro called him nearly every day, at least once a day in production, and be like, "Hey, how did Tommy hold a cigarette? Hey, how did Tommy?" It's funny because this one moment that I'm about to say, I noticed it when I saw it. I was like, "Huh, I've never seen it before." But it's like, how did Tommy take, ketchup out of a bottle? Because in the moment
Uh,
where they're at Tommy's or at yes, Tommy's mom's house.
yeah.
Sorry, Robert De Niro was calling about Jimmy. Sorry, I get Jimmy and Tommy confused all the time. But yeah, he ended up calling him a ton, and he told him like, oh, he would roll the bottle in his hand. He would sort of have the bottle of ketchup like this and sort of do that tornado effect, because people like shove a French fry in it and try and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
ketchup out, or you're tapping the bottle exactly. You do that, but yeah, it's just so interesting that De Niro's approach was like, I need as much information as possible. And then Pesci's approach, from what I heard in a bunch of old interviews as well, he was saying that like, yeah, I read some things, I read the book, everyone read the book and all of that, but I wanted to bring my own flavor to the character because, the book is sort of reported accounts and then the rest of it sort of heightened and, you know, a bit more fictionalized and all of that. And mind you, Pesci was apparently physically not much like um, the real Tommy. Tommy apparently was a huge dude, and Pesci's
Yeah.
a small guy, but he's still like a grenade of a personality in this role. Like it was so well done. But yeah, before we move on to our own specific likes and dislikes, I want to read a few more of our Reddit users. This is one of those users, Swander Daddy 69. He says, people make the mistake of thinking this is another film glorifying the mob and miss a powerful aspect of this movie. Scorsese makes it very clear. These guys are not to be envied. The money, the cars, the coats are veneer that masks the pathetic lives of these criminals. Joe Pesci is put down like a dog. De Niro goes to jail before he can even spend the money that they've worked so hard to steal. And Ray Liotta ends up a paranoid, drug-addicted clown who manages to skirt by ratting on his friends. The people we watched acting like friends the whole movie try to kill each other the second things get hot. They are all losers, and Scorsese subtly drops the curtain from the moments after the heist onward. Noticing that shift is the key to appreciating an entirely new aspect of the movie that explores how deplorable people manage to draw an illusion that their lives are anything but pathetic. Very well
Mm,
said, Swindler Daddy 69. Thank you for sharing. We also have Gogo Pogo says the memorable
nice.
thing about watching Goodfellas as a young movie fan with that opening sequence. So you just knew you're in for something different. Scorsese's pacing and the enrapturing cinematography by Michael Ballhaus are just mesmerizing. This was the kind of film that you rewound the cassette immediately after and you rewatched it. Goodfellas is an all-time classic, 35 years on, and just reminiscing on it makes me want to go on Henry's crazy journey again. And we've got a few standout moments from Gamer Secret 2. For me, Goodfellas is one of those rare films that never loses its power no matter how many times you watch it. The pacing is perfect, the narration pulls you right in, and the style makes it feel alive from the very first scene to the last. Joe Pesci's performance is on another level. The funny how scene makes me uneasy even though I know what's coming. My favorite moment is a long tracking shot into the Copacabana. It shows the charm, the status, and the seduction of that life better than any dialogue could. That scene alone is why the movie still feels timeless. I do want to talk about the funny how scene.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
Watching it, so I have a lot of cousins. Like many Hispanics, I'm part of a huge family.
Yes.
My mom's one of 10, my dad's one of 6. I've got 19 cousins on my mom's side alone. So, family part, and they're all around, most of them are around my age. Sometimes my cousins will say something and they're like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, shut up, you know what I mean. Stop playing dumb. And I felt so frustrated with Joe Pesci in this moment. Mind you, not him, but with the character, with Tommy.
Yes.
Because he's like, funny how? I'm like, everyone in this room is laughing at your story. You don't think that's funny? What do you mean funny how? I would have blown up just like he did. I would have been like, what do you mean funny how? Just we're all laughing at what you're saying. It's funny. Why do you think we're laughing? Because it's amusing. He's like, what am I, like a clown to you? It's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And mind you, he's pulling his leg. He's messing with him. But it's you truly do feel like, oh my God, is he about to shoot him? Like,
yeah.
About to kill like his own friend? Is this gonna be like Psycho or Scream, where like the star of the movie is dead 20 minutes in? Like what? So specifically, as we were talking, we've mentioned several standout moments, but is there any like one specific moment that you feel is like your absolute favorite of the movie, or maybe an underrated moment? If we've already talked about your favorite, maybe an underrated moment that folks don't quite talk about as much.
I really like when Jimmy decides to whack Maury. I think Maury's character, I think there's Maury and honestly Karen's character, I think they have like some of the, because this is more of a personal, like you said, like a narrative on Henry and the voiceover and kind of his perspective and his life. I think that some of the supporting characters don't get as much sunshine, like focus, which I honestly I'm not like mad about. Anyways, so I think that if there was ever a remake, that I would be intrigued to have more of some other characters' perspectives. But what I think I really love about this scene is that Henry is trying to help him, but we've got Jimmy, we have De Niro's like the slow push in. He's at the bar. It's just he's coming in and he's realizing no, no longer. I can't let this slide. There's many times in this film. There's so many times that restraint doesn't have of like not cutting too early or not letting dialogue have to come in so fast. But there's other times there, and I think that this sequence, because we have the opening of Henry trying to like, hey, it's gonna be okay, like or Maury getting mad at him and wanting his money, being flustered, but then we have the push in and De Niro just really, this guy is fully plotting, and I just love it. I love. I think part of it's a pause for the film and for us to kind of connect with this character in a subtext manner that we personally can decide how is this, what is he actually, what's going through his mind? Is it fully that he's it's just you can let your mind run wild, and sometimes in film we don't let that happen as much anymore. We're always like we want to fill in every single gap. But I just really appreciate that moment. And then you get, the conversation afterwards. And Henry giving his voiceover and talking about how Jimmy's a nervous wreck. And him just trying to figure out where he's at with Jimmy. And I don't know. That to me, I really love that scene. Um, uh, it's a great insight to both the characters.
And some other moments we mentioned, like the Copacabana scene, that whole oneer on the steady cam following them through was so well done.
Hmm.
I read somewhere that that scene had to be filmed like 9 times,
Oh,
only
I imagine.
because only because though the actor playing the comedian on stage kept messing up his jokes, which is funny of all things. It's like set up punchline. Like his jokes were very quick, but it's like
Yes.
maybe he was nervous, or it's in mind you, I love the show, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which wrapped
Oh,
up
yes.
a couple years ago. They do a ton of those sort of oneers and whatnot, and I've interviewed some of those actors, and they've said like, "Oh yeah, you don't want to be that guy who messes up and you have to reset this 8-minute shot." It's like you
Well,
don't want to be the one to ruin it. It's like forgetting your line on stage and you throw off the flow of a scene. But this is that times 10 because now you gotta reset lights. Okay, everyone reset. It's like you've got 100 extras and crew members and all that moving around. But I can't imagine.
it's funny because the studio makes a whole bit, an entire episode. The second episode,
Yeah,
they come in with this. He's like, "Oh no, it's just gonna be a quick visit, quick visit." Listen, bro, we can't mess him up. They have only a little bit of window to get this one
yeah. They're
shot.
trying to get the
And then
sunset.
him, and then him just completely just continuing messing up the shot. Oh, I just
Yeah, and then by the end of it, he's like, "They didn't get
yes,
it."
didn't get it. No.
Yeah. Oh, that episode in particular was so great. And in this sort of spin-off podcast we have, Once Upon a Time at the Movies, the first one we talked about was Halloween, and that iconic oneer in the whole opening scene. There are some secret cuts that we talked about. It's like the back then the film reels weren't large enough to do
Accommodate.
the whole thing, so they had to cut at some point. Like we have to find a place to strategically cut. So where they cut was when like Michael puts on the mask and you just see like little eye holes and whatnot. But like I just love these visionary filmmakers, just doing stuff like that, and that it's still done today.
Yeah.
I love that they're like, no, we're gonna do like an homage to old Hollywood and classic filmmaking and these
Yeah.
classic techniques and like that slow push zoom out effect that leaves the
Yeah, the
subjects
vertigo
pretty
effect,
normal,
yeah.
but the outside changes. Another iconic use of that was Steven Spielberg in Jaws, when
Jaws, yeah.
someone yells "shark" and it's that quick zoom in
Yep.
or push in, zoom out to I forget the actor's name, but the lead actor in Jaws.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's like it gives that panic, that feeling of like like it's just so well done. I love seeing that in any movie, whether it's done well or not, whether it's cheesy or
Yeah.
not. I'm like, I love it. Good job.
No, it's great. I think what I actually really like this version of a vertigo effect. I think there's something
Oh,
so, but at the same time, that because you're in the diner and it's a commercial, you're like, it brings us intimately, instead of like cutting in, we get the vertigo effect of zooming out while uh pushing in by while focusing out, right? And so we stay on with the subjects, but we know that this is not going to be an easy moment, and uh, or just an intimate moment, right? And to me, it's just a beautiful transition. It's just I would never have thought about doing a vertigo effect in this moment
yeah.
at the pace that I do, because you would like you said, like in Jaws, it's like of a shocking lapse, but again, I mean,
In
you think
Vertigo, it's like
about
that moment of panic. It's like he
yes,
looks down, it's like that, ooh, it's expanding. But in this moment, it is so slow because he's slowly coming to the realization that his world is like crumbling around him.
yeah,
It's so well done. And again, it has all these different uses, and it's like one tiny thing, like how quickly do we do it? Completely changes the feel it will give an audience. And it's also interesting, today with digital filmmaking, you can watch the playback as an actor. You can be like, oh, that's what it looks like. Okay, so let me channel that in and really
I
feel
love
that.
this
While back
point.
then they couldn't do that. It's like, they can't go back. Come take a look at what we just shot. Nope, we can't do that. So it's like you have to trust the filmmaker, and the filmmaker has to trust the actor, and all of that. It is so much trust was put in way back in the day when it's like we can't. Only one person can see what it is we're filming while it's happening.
did we get it? Yeah, I think we got it. That feeling. I
Yeah.
think I think maybe there's a level of like that's why productions costs have begin to skyrocket because they're like, oh, I don't know if we got that, or oh, we have it's the that we have to be on our A game as actors in order to to win and
Yeah,
I don't know, to have that special moment. No,
yeah. And
I
good.
oh, go ahead.
No, no.
Oh, um, I listen. I uh, the I really I'm trying to think of one other moment. I will say there is a level that I mean, some of the alley shots. I know we talked about how earlier in the pod that we talked about like the lighting of for the characters, but
Yeah.
these shots for sure, there is, you do have a little bit of light or when not, but I like that there are moments in this film that we don't that it is dark, it is sketchy, but they use it to their advantage, not just because uh, uh, they're stylistically doing it like we do have today.
Mhm.
These are moments like, no, this is us like peering in if I was around the corner or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. Those are all moments, little things.
Yeah.
Trying to think
That
of
opening
another
shot
really.
where they open the trunk and they're just fully red because it's supposed
Yeah.
to be like the tail lights and the light inside the thing.
Yes.
Um, Mind you, it's funny because when you watch like when it's on the actors, they're fully red, and I'm like, no tail light on Earth is that bright red. But
Yes.
they want to highlight like
Yeah.
they're red with panic, red with fury, red, because you've got Henry's red with panic. You've got Tommy who's red with fury because he's like, this motherfucker's still alive. Oh God, like
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
He's angry. And then you've got a Jimmy who's kind of just like, I'm here as the chaperone for these two
Yes.
crazy kids. All right, whatever.
Yes.
Um, and the only thing they're fully red, and then in the back you just have they've got like one white light shining on the trees, so there's like a little bit of a background. But it's so simple. It's two lights probably, or at least the idea of it is just it's two lights, but it's just done so well. The way that the effectiveness of it, like I said, as I'm watching it, and I'm like, this is like scary. This is this is a moment, and again, it freeze frame. For all my
Yeah.
life, as long as I remember, I've wanted to become a mobster. It's like, oh God, this is where we're starting. That
Well,
shot
I
really,
mean,
really introduces you as like, buckle up, kids, because we're
yes.
gonna go on a ride.
Facts. Uh, Listen. Also, I think the when what's her is getting her hair done and all the ladies are around.
Hmm.
Come on, what a god! I think they're just talking shop as the boys are you know
Yeah,
outside. Somebody the one guy getting beat up with a freaking brutal.
yeah.
Uh, I don't know. I really love that scene is I think the hair scene just kind of fun,
Hmm.
fun little like seeing where the ladies are at again. Karen, I wish that we could have gotten a little bit more from her.
Yeah.
Uh,
And there's that one moment
um,
where they Henry and Karen are realizing their whole world is the mob, is that they have no friends outside of the this group. They're all at each
yeah,
other's birthdays and baby showers and baptisms and all of that, and it's like it is their whole world. And as like nice as that sounds, like wow, what a nice close knit group of people. You want that in real life, but not if it's the mob. Because then it's like we get out of here. There's no one to rely on. There's no one to who's how when we get made, who am I gonna, mind you, made in the bad way. It's funny that in the mob they say like, oh, he's getting made, it's,
yeah,
which is like, oh, he's getting inducted into a family or whatever. Meanwhile, I feel like when it comes to like covert ops and all that, it's like we've been made. It's like they found us
yeah,
out or whatever, we're in trouble.
yeah,
But it's funny that for the mob in this particular context, that sort of is flipped on its head. But that was just such an interesting moment. It's like she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm a mob wife. This is my
yeah,
full life now. I have no other friends. Even their neighbor across the street. She's like, I can't talk to him because he got pistol whipped the last time he looked at me wrong.
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But I do want to close with this one particular Reddit user. They wrote such a great little synopsis of their feelings in the movie. Killer Rat Monkey, thank you so much for sharing this. But Killer Rat Monkey says, this movie has an energy to it that I rarely find in movies anymore. Every scene is alive and makes me feel like I'm experiencing this story alongside these colorful characters.
Mm.
When young Henry is getting his footing with the mob, I feel as exhilarated as he did. When Karen is being introduced into Henry's world, we could see and feel how attracted she must have been to the possible future. And when Henry's life is unraveling at the end of the film, we feel our own world spinning out of control as well. Another thing I appreciate, Scorsese himself has described the filming of this movie as having a punk feel, in that he wanted to dive deep into his bag of tricks and didn't care if someone didn't like it or felt that something was overdone or relied on it too much. So we get the freeze frames, the one-shot Copa scene, the quick cuts, the slow motion, and other stylistic flourishes, blurring of the airline ticket and Pesci firing directly into the camera at the end, just off the top of my head. Those moments are hitting us with reckless abandon, and I feel all of it every single time I watch it. Goodfellas has a pulse that vibrates through every scene. It's my favorite film and likely always will be. So, Danny, final question. Kind of a silly question at this point because we both love the movie. Would you recommend this movie to someone?
I absolutely would. I think if you haven't watched this film in the last, 2 years, even actually the last 5 years, make it a
Visit
movie
it.
night. Yeah, yeah. I think you maybe we these it's like, oh, I've seen Goodfellas, but like nah, revisiting some of these like again the classic. If any of these iconic films are in theaters, take the time to go see them in theaters
Yeah.
because we get to then relive what it was like when they first came out, and that you just you can't get that same moment at home. That's why I love going to films, and the story's great. You just always go on a fantastic journey. Um, love it.
For me, again, having seen it for the first time only a few weeks ago, um, absolutely would recommend this, especially if you're someone like me who's not familiar with Scorsese movies. I'm only familiar with his recent stuff. I saw Wolf of Wall Street, The Irishman, um, most other classics like Coppola's films. I've never seen the Godfather movies. Again, my parents didn't want us watching violent movies or mob movies, so I have to watch those at some point. If there's an anniversary, we'll absolutely talk about it on the show.
No, I also have not watched The Godfather, and I
I
know
feel
that.
like a fraud when I'm like, yeah, I'm an actor and I love movies and I like writing reviews on stuff, and people are like,
Yeah,
you ever seen The Godfather? It's like, sorry, I don't have 10 hours to spare to watch this trilogy of movies. Like,
I think.
seeing Goodfellas in theaters was like, it's like a 2.5 hour movie with
Yeah,
previews at Regal. Good Lord, they go on for 30 minutes. So it's
yeah,
fully a 3 hour endeavor.
yes,
And mind you, watching it at home, I cannot imagine watching this movie at home ever. Like, because you're pausing, this 2.5 hour movie turns into 3 hours all of a sudden. Because you're
yeah,
pausing it. Oh, wait, what happened there? But no, put your phone away, turn out the lights, have your snack with you. You got to use the bathroom, hold it, and
yes,
then watch
yeah.
the movie.
I think I fully like I agree with you. Like don't get me wrong. Do I know that I'm in like some weird like purgatory with my filmmaker card of not watching Godfellas? I mean, The Godfather. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Goodfellas. This film, like I think this film. You look at even I think Oppenheimer's another one. You look at I don't know what else. So many, even Psycho, like you brought up earlier,
Mm,
Hitchcock films. These are all films that you're like, I want to watch, but I feel like I need to do it justice, and I'm never gonna do it justice. Or like I want to do it, I just don't have time
yeah,
to like sit down and just like ignore the rest of the world for in time, because I want if I do that, I want to just go to the theater and watch something that's happening
yeah,
right now, and it's just a sucky moment. So I just really, I think,
yeah.
again, I just want to really encourage people, listen, block out the time, make this moment happen to just relive this wonderful story.
Danny, thank you so much for joining us. If our moviegoers want to give you a follow anywhere on social media, where can they find you?
Yeah, honestly, you can find us on our movie podcast at Reel Chums, ReelChums, as in a movie reel. And then, but you can find me personally at Rubio dot TV on Instagram.
Awesome. And to all of you moviegoers, you can give us a follow at our main Instagram account, Actors with Issues, for all updates regarding our podcast. And give me a follow at Juaniala Official. And if you are either watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever it may be, please make sure to subscribe to the show to never miss an episode. We've got lots of incredible actor interviews coming up on Actors with Issues. And this is the first episode back for Once Upon a Time at the Movies. It's been 2 years since we've done one of these. So we're very excited to be getting back into this. And our 250th podcast episode is around the corner. So we've got, hopefully, we're not sure what we're doing yet, but we hope to have a very special episode involved. But wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, leave us a rating and review. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. I'm Juaniala, and thank you so much for coming to the movies with us. Thanks for joining us. Actors with Issues is hosted and produced by Juan Ayala. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe to our YouTube channel or on the podcast platform you're listening to. Visit actorswithissues.com for exclusive news and reviews, and give us a follow on Instagram and TikTok at Actors with Issues.